Aloha, my name is Ben Kaneaiakala here at Phoenix Rising Addiction Center. We are here talking about step 2, coming to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, and we are on part 10. This is really coming along, and in the last couple of videos that I did, we're talking about defiance. We're talking about our defiance towards a religion, our defiance towards a God, towards a higher power, and some of the blocks that we've used throughout our life, or the things that we were taught, in regards to our upbringing around religion or God, and how a lot of those things interfere or block us from reaching out and from asking for help, because it's failed us before, or there is no God, or I just don't understand it, or there's just all these experiences that we have all in our head, in our between our two ears, that we've brought along with us. You know what I mean? And whether they've helped a little, whether they haven't helped, or they've helped a lot, or whatever, we still find defiance, not reliance, but defiance, upon this so-called higher power or understanding that we have. So we've been talking a lot about that. So I'm going to continue reading. We're on page 31 on the last paragraph, where it says, when we encountered the program, the fallacy of our defiance was revealed. At no time had we asked what our higher power's will was for us. Instead, we had been telling him what it ought to be. And that's really true. I mean, if you really look at it, do we ever bring our higher power, or whatever values and beliefs we might have around a higher power or God? Do we ever bring that into things before we, you know what I mean? So we're always asking our God to do this in prayer. We're asking our God to do that. Oh, please do this. Oh, please protect this. Or please heal this. Or please, we're always asking. Yeah? Asking. And there's nothing wrong with the asking. It's just that, what's the intention of the asking? What's the motivation of the asking? What are you asking for? Are you asking for something of hope, or of something of the future that you hope might happen, and please God, please do this for me or for them, or whatever it might be? There's so much expectations that's put upon this so-called God of our understanding, or God of your understanding. I know I did in my upbringing. I always wondered where my God was, this so-called God. I grew up in the Mormon church, and went to church on Sundays with my aunt, along with my brothers and my cousins, and that's what we did from when we were young. I didn't understand it, but that's what we did, and we had to wear this clothes, and we had to do this, and we had to do that, and we had to do this, and we, if we fail, or we make a mistake, or we become a sinner, and we're going to hell, and da 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 da. And there's all these expectations upon that I grew up with, and whenever I would ask for God to help, it never came. But the other side of the coin is that I always expected something to be done for me, rather than me doing the work, rather than me taking the responsibility, and ownership of what's going on between my two ears, or what might be going on in my life today. So that we should be, at no time have we asked what God's will was, or our higher power's will was for us. Instead, we have been telling him what it ought to be. No man we saw could believe in God and defy him too. Belief meant reliance, not defiance. In the program, we saw the fruits of this belief. Men and women spared from their final thinking behavioral catastrophes. We saw them meet and transcend their other pains and trials. We saw them calmly accept impossible situations, seeking neither to run nor to recriminate. This was not only faith, it was faith that worked under all conditions. We soon concluded that whatever price in humility we must pay, we would pay. And that's what ends up happening, at least for me, when I came into the program, is is coming to believe that, and I had used the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had used the 12-step program and the fellowship and my sponsor, and those were the things that I relied upon. Those were my higher powers when I first, because I was just too resentful, too angry with the God that I knew. So they told me, borrow mine. Use the fellowship, use the meetings, use those. Those powers are greater than you. Use those powers to help you. Those are all resources that are available to you. Use them. Use them to help you get better. Use them to help you walk through these tough times or situations that come about that seem overwhelming and stressful. Use the resources rather than just relying upon myself, you know. And I thank God that was offered to me. That the 12-step program gave me an opportunity to build and to work on a new understanding. And it started off with the 12-step program. It started off with meetings. It started off with my sponsor, step studies. It started off with going to meetings. It started off with, starting off with little prayers and trying to meditate. Like it started off really with those things. But what I started seeing was I started seeing myself being able to walk through challenges. I started seeing myself being able to walk through things or to get a job or, to be responsible, to pay rent, the simple things in life, being able to do those types of things without having to resort to excessive thinking, obsessive thinking, repetitive thinking, or the ultimate alcoholism or drug addiction or sex addiction or without getting into another addiction, without going into other types of forms of unmanageability outside of alcohol and drugs. And that's what I discovered, that there was a power that was greater than I, and I found it there. And I think that's one of the easiest ways to kind of step into this whole coming to believe in a power greater than ourselves that can restore us to sanity. At least for me it was, and from there it just continued to grow and manifest itself throughout my sobriety. So next paragraph. Now let's take the guy full of faith but still reeking of the obsession of thinking or alcoholism or drug addiction or sex addiction or gambling addiction or sloth or gluttony or envy or whatever it might be, reeking of this. He believes he is devout. His religious observance is scrupulous. He's sure he still believes in God, but suspects that God doesn't believe in him. He states pledges and more pledges. Following each, he is not only drinks again or acts out again, but acts worse than the last time. And that's one of the things too, is that even though we can believe in a power greater than ourselves and be and show up at our Sunday best and do everything as far as what it looks good on the outside as me being a member of the church or whatever it might be, but as soon as I'm done with that, it's gone. I'm back to, a matter of fact, I've always been just self-centered and just thinking of me. I'm just doing that, telling myself that I'm this, but I truly don't believe it. I am truly in self-will run riot. I am truly doing my own will and what I think is best for me. And that's a tough place to be, because it just gets worse. It just progresses because we haven't truly surrendered in that state. In step one is requiring us to. That type of willingness and surrender has to be there in order for this to work. So valiantly, he tries to fight the obsession, imploring God's help. But the help doesn't come. What then can be the matter? So what happens? We just continue when we're left in that. We're like begging for help. Please, God, help me. Please, God, help me. You guys remember that story about the guy on the roof in a flood? he's up on the flood waiting to be rescued, and he's praying to God, please save me, please save me. And God sends the fireman in the boat. He sends a helicopter to come. He says, no, 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 I'm good. My God's coming to get me. And then he dies because he doesn't take the help. And he's up at the pearly gates going, I prayed that for you to come and save me and help me, and you didn't. And God says, I did. I sent the boat. I sent the helicopter. I sent all these resources. But when we are so blinded by self, when we are so blinded by obsessive compulsive thinking and values and beliefs and labels and judgments and identities and images and roles and all these types, when we're full of that and surrounded by that, we're not going to be able to see the help that's right in front of us that's already there. Because it's already there. And a lot of the times, the only thing that can get through that wall, through that barrier, is a lot of pain and suffering. External pain and suffering that we see, that we're starting to feel, and all that kind of stuff, the external stuff, but pain and suffering. A lot of pain and suffering. And that's what needs to happen in order for us to get to that state of surrender and being willing. So it goes on to say, to clergymen, doctors, friends, and families, the obsessed who means well, or the overthinker, or if the thinking is the problem, who means well and tries hard, is a heartbreaking riddle. To most people, he is not. Or people in the program, or 12-step program, he is not. There are too many of us who have been just like him and have found the riddle's answer. This answer has to do with the quality of faith rather than its quantity of faith. This has been our blind spot. We suppose we had humility when really we hadn't. We suppose we had been serious about religious practices when, upon honest appraisal, we found we had only been superficial. Or going to the other extreme, we had wallowed in emotionalism and had mistaken it for true religious feeling. In both cases, we had been asking something for nothing. The fact was we really hadn't cleaned house so that the grace of God could enter us and expel the obsession. In no deep or meaningful sense had we ever taken stock of ourselves, made amends to those we had harmed, or freely given to any other human being without any demand for reward. We had not even prayed rightly. We had always said, grant me my wishes instead of thy will be done. The love of God and man we understood not at all. Therefore, we remained self-deceived and so incapable of receiving enough grace to restore us to sanity. And that's what surrender does. And that's what we're coming here faced to do, is getting to that place of how willing am I to do what I need to do. I'm out in the ocean. The Titanic has sank. I'm over there treading water, and there's a life preserver over there. And I know that I won't be able to tread water very long before I drown. And I see that life preserver way, way over there, and I know that I got to get there as soon as possible if I have a chance of surviving. And I go after it. And I go after that life preserver because it's going to save my life. That's the kind of willingness and surrender, and coming to believe and wanting to do whatever it is that I need to do so that I can get the grace of God. So I don't have to continue believing the lies that what I just read. All those lies that I tell myself, that I believe, that I'm so blinded to. But just like what I've learned for myself in my own sobriety and working with many people, is that sometimes we got to go through more pain and suffering. And there's nothing wrong with pain and suffering. It leads us to awakening. It leads us to surrender. And so there's nothing wrong with us suffering if it gets us to a place of being open and willing and a place of surrender. So I hope this was helpful today. In part 10, this series on step two. This is probably gonna take maybe a couple more videos for me to get through the rest of the step, but I hope that this is helping. Again, follow us on any of our social media here on YouTube at Phoenix Rising Addiction Center, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're all there. If you need help or you know somebody that does need help, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to just talk and see what's going on and see what I can do to help. And I hope you guys have a great day. Mahalo.